Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions from the worlds of TV, film, pop culture, social media, lifestyle, music, everything really, depending on the guest. We talk about it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Meliodas, and on social media, you know me as PD Beats. You will recognize my guest from a hot new show that you could watch on Amazon Prime. It is called Upload, and we are with Zainab Johnson. Zainab, welcome to Popternative.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on the show, and I just want to say congrats with the early success of Upload. It is fantastic.
Thank you. We love it, and when we went into it loving it, as we made it, we loved it, and when we were done, we loved it, and all we hoped for is exactly what has happened. We hoped that the public would love it the way we loved it, and we're just so happy about that.
And you know what? Like, it hasn't even been out a month.
No, it hasn't even been out 2 weeks yet.
2 weeks, and season 2 is like, it's been announced you're gonna make a season 2. Like, that's awesome. That's like an actor's dream, right?
Yeah, it was announced as season 2. Season 2 was announced 1 week exactly after the premiere date. So it came out Friday, May 1st. And then that following Friday, Amazon announced that it would.
Were you all taken aback a little bit? Like, was it a surprise? Yes,
it was a surprise, but not in the sense that we didn't think that it was going to happen. I think as much as we hoped it would happen, we were surprised that the decision was made so quickly. Mm-hmm. Not that the decision was made, but just, given everything that's happening, there's so many shows that are up in limbo right now, not because they're not good, simply because nobody has any idea what the future looks like at this point,
Absolutely. No,
and I think
sure.
I think that that's what's so wonderful about our show Upload is that it really is confronting what is our reality, although that wasn't our intention.
No, it's crazy because people are referring to it as, because like Netflix had a show called Altered Carbon, and people are saying it's like the light, fun version of Altered Carbon, but it is just I'm all about the aesthetic, and it looks so cool and crisp, and it's slick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think that that's necessary. I think that our show is unique. And the reason why I think that it's unique, because I've seen Altered Carbon. I've seen a lot of the shows that we're being compared to, The Good Place. Certain aspects, I remember we were watching some of the different casts. We're watching Westworld, and they have self-driving cars in Westworld, and we were like, but I think that our show is unique because what Greg does, which is so fantastic, is he grounds everything in relationships. So really the future and what's happening with the uploads and stuff, that's kind of like the backdrop. What really I think attaches people are the relationships. What is going to happen between Nora and Nathan? What's going to happen between Nathan and Ingrid? How are Luke and Aleesha going to kill each other?
Mm-hmm.
So
there's so many stories. There's so many, and you know what? It's an amazing cast from top to bottom. We're gonna get back into Upload, but I just wanted to say, I just want to talk to you quickly. I usually ask this in the beginning of the interview, but we went straight to Upload because I was so excited. But I mean, whether you act, whether you write, whether you sing, whether you produce, whether you do comedy, you're all storytellers. When did Zainab Johnson decide she wanted to be a storyteller?
I decided that I wanted to be a storyteller probably about 9 years ago. It was the first time that I got on stage as a comedian, as a stand-up comedian. And I had been around comedy for a very long time and never once had the idea that maybe it was something that I could do. But I remember that particular day when I did my first open mic, I had so much to share. And I was tired of share. I didn't have like a specific story like to tell my friends. I just felt like I had a perspective that I needed some sort of outlet,
Mm-hmm.
and stand up was the outlet. And I was afraid. I thought that it would be terrible. Nobody would laugh. And then I would be like, okay, I did that. Now let's move on. Maybe I need to just write a script or something. But people laughed, and I haven't stopped since.
How was the transition from doing stand-up comedy to then doing acting like what we see at Upload? What's that transition like?
Well, I think I have the pleasure of being pretty funny in Upload.
You're hilarious at Upload. I was gonna get to it. It's like you know what I'm gonna ask. Like you're so funny.
But the difference is, stand up is it's a solo act for the most part. If I succeed or fail on stage, it is on me. And what I had to adjust to on Upload was not always, as much as I am being very funny, it takes everybody for that funny to exist. And I couldn't just, like, there would be times where I would change lines because I would know that it was funny, but Zainab would deliver the punchline differently than how they wrote Aleesha to say it, right?
Yep.
But what the writers know is they're not only having Aleesha deliver a punchline, they're also having her give information that further informs what you're going to see the next episode or, further episodes down the line. And so I had to just remember, like, okay, you can't act like this is a stand-up show. You are part of a vehicle.
Yeah.
And you have to be, if you're the tire, you need to be
Wheels
the
are
tire
turning.
to help it. Yeah. And so that was very different. I'm also, stand-up are my own thoughts. I'm very confident in what I'm thinking. It was a little bit of an adjustment for me to be confident in becoming someone else.
Mm-hmm.
That's not too far from me, but still not me. And then say somebody else's words. That was a bit of an adjustment.
Um, my go-to comedy, like for stand-up specifically, is like when people like they're not trying to be funny, but it's funny to
Yeah.
everyone else. Like they're just talking, and then people start laughing, and like the stand-up comedian's like, I'm not trying to be funny. This is just like how I talk. Like I love that. I feel like that's the new trend in comedy right now.
I like that type of comedy too because it seems effortless. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's so wonderful about it. But let me just reassure you, every comedian, regardless of what it seems like their tactic is, they are trying to be funny. There is no comedian ever in life that's getting on stage and is like, oh, I'm just talking. I'm not trying to be funny, but thanks so much for laughing. Oh, no, 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 no.
Well, the reason I say this is I have a friend named Ryan Halpenny, and he's gonna lose his mind that I'm talking about this because he's gonna be like, get over it. But he is just one of those guys that he's just a very savvy and knowledgeable guy about like technology and like pop culture, right? So he just knows so much. So he always has like a reply or a funny response to something when he's just talking. And we always go up to him and we're like, that's a bit. That's a stand-up bit. And he's like, no, it's not. I'm just telling you my opinion.
Is he a comedian?
He's not. He should be.
Yeah, it's funny because there's a lot of times where I write things down that I think are funny. And the things that become my best bits are when I'm just talking and somebody says, are you saying that on stage? And then I have to like make note of it. But sometimes I get a little bit rebellious. Like, no, I'm just telling you my day. Like what, And they're like, well, your day is funnier than that joke you wrote. So
have you ever performed at the Just for Laughs festival in Montreal?
multiple times in 2014, I was I was a new face, which is, what comedians want. And then I've been to JFL ever since I was a new face. I think I've been back every year. And in 2019, I was there as Variety's top 10 comics to watch.
Amazing. Because like that's where I'm from. I'm from Montreal.
Oh, okay, okay.
I live in Ottawa now, but I'm from there. I remember those galas are stacked that they have. I love because I guess we didn't know like ahead of time like who's gonna be there, but like sometimes certain people like come in as surprises, basically, and you don't know. So I remember
That's the beauty of a festival.
So one time it was Steve Martin was hosting the gala.
Okay.
And we had Nick Cannon. And we had Jerry D, who's a funny comedian from Toronto. And we had Jack Whitehall.
Okay.
And he's from the UK. I think I messed up his name. Jack. His name's
okay.
Yeah, his name's Jack. I think it's Jack Whitehall. But it was just like, and then like we saw all these people performing, and they became like huge like 1 year later. And we're all like, we saw him at the Just for Laughs. We saw her at the Just for Laughs. You know what I mean? Which is amazing. How important is it for you? Obviously, comedy is something that you've been doing for a good amount of time, and that's like the bread and butter for Zainab Johnson, but you're doing acting as well. But how important is it to wear many hats? Because you seem to wear many hats and do a lot of different things in the entertainment industry.
I think the more that you can do, the better off you'll be. I mean, look at now. I mean, nobody could have predicted, well, I mean, I guess you could say Obama predicted, I don't know. But just any, everyday civilian didn't know that we would end up here. And a lot of people who are live performers are virtually not being able to perform. There's people who their whole livelihood is based on what they do on the road, and they can't do that. And so the people who are lucky are the people who are also on television, are also in writers' rooms, are also doing something, on the internet, because it's so many things, you never know what's going to service you or feed you at any particular moment. I also think, you mentioned earlier, like, when did I decide to become a storyteller? I think when you decide to become a storyteller, you realize that there's so many different ways to tell stories. And especially now more than ever, like if anybody wanted to shoot a video or make a movie or write a book, you had to go through so many channels and so many powers that be at one point. Now all you really need to do is have a phone or have a Google account. You know, you can sell your book online and on Amazon if you want.
Absolutely.
And so so I think that just realizing that there's so many different outlets to tell stories now, it's like, why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
No, for sure. There's so many things. I remember like this was like 10, 11 years ago, but I remember my friends made a movie called Happy Slapping, which was one of like the first movies that was filmed on like an iPhone.
Really?
Yeah. So I always, when like technology or making content from phones or mobile devices is brought up, like you brought up, I always like bringing that in there because I thought that was really cool that they were doing that. Like the whole movie was shot on the iPhone.
Yeah. And I mean, you're saying 10, 11 years ago.
10, 11 years ago.
iPhone 2. That's like the iPhone 1 or 2, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if they did that on that basic of a device and all that our smartphones can do now, the cameras that I imagine the iPhone 1 camera was terrible.
Yeah, no, it was.
If I'm thinking about it,
For sure.
The amount of the amount of data that the phone could hold, now we've just advanced so far.
Yes, no, for 100%. Upload is out. I'm interviewing you on the show, and Upload is out, so people can watch Upload. I interviewed Chris Williams a couple of weeks.
Who plays Nora's dad?
A couple of weeks before Upload came out, so we didn't see it, right? But you could tell he was like really excited to talk about it. Like he was pumped about it.
Yeah. What's so funny is I was just like in this quarantine, I've been catching up on shows that I have never seen, but have been like big hits throughout the years. And so I started watching Silicon Valley, and he is on Silicon Valley.
He's so funny.
He is so funny on Silicon Valley. And the only time I had seen him before was in one of my favorite movies, which is Dodgeball.
It's one of my favorites too. Lumberjacks ready.
Yes. So when I saw him, when I saw that he was a part of Upload's, although I'm in no scenes with him, when I saw he was a part of Upload's cast, I was so excited because because of what I'd seen him in, and then to watch him in Silicon Valley and to see him so funny. Upload is very different. He's like a very sentimental character.
Yeah.
and upload. And I think that it's really nice to see him sort of like show that different side of himself.
Yeah, no, it is crazy. It's so interesting to see how content is being consumed right now in this time of like, you know, quarantine. And it's one of those things where I don't know the numbers, but like I know like a lot of people I know watched Upload already. Like they're done. Like it's been and it hasn't even been 2 weeks. You know what I mean?
Oh, people watched it like in a day, but I realized it too because so the cast had to, the premiere day, we had to go live with Conan O'Brien, and then we had to watch and live tweet the first 2 episodes, right?
Yeah.
And so after that Friday, I was like, okay, cool. I'm gonna try and pace myself through the weekend, right, to watch it. And so Saturday, I thought that I would watch like 2 or 3 episodes, and then I realized I had watched 7 more episodes on Saturday, just because once you get into it, once it goes, it goes. And then I was like, okay, I need to stop. I want to wait till Sunday to watch the finale. And then when I watched the finale, and I read the script, I was there. I already know what happens. I was like this.
Mm-hmm. That's what happens. A lot of people like rewatch movies that they're in and they know what happens. They're like, oh, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
There's a lot of shows. Like, I feel like people are going to continue to talk about Upload. Shifting over to Netflix, and you were involved with a show on Netflix that and which was
100 Humans,
and you were the host, and it's people watch that a lot. like
100 Humans came out at the start of the stay-at-home order, and so I was quite surprised. Like it premiered like I think Friday the March 13th, or was that Thursday? Whatever. I think it premiered that weekend, and then by Saturday we were like in the top 10.
which is
And
nuts.
I don't think I was paying attention to like Netflix's top 10 before that. And then I started getting a bunch of messages like from different countries, like, oh, you're in the top 10 here. You're in the top 10 in the United States. You're in the top 10 in Europe. You're in the top 10 in Australia. I was like, oh my God.
So there's a website called whatsonnetflix.com and they have a list that's updated every 6 hours of the top 10 movies and shows in Netflix.
Yeah.
So I check that like every morning basically and keep up to date. Hey, like I gotta keep up to date and see what's new and what's trending.
Yeah.
And Netflix has been like putting out some really good shows. Like, I mean, there's a show called Outer Banks that's on Netflix right now.
I've seen the previews for that.
It's like people are losing their minds over that show.
Really?
Because it's like the new teen, like it's the new, like, remember Dawson's Creek, The OC, One Tree Hill? It's the new that.
So the thing for me, and I've seen the previews for Outer Banks, and I think maybe that's the thing that's the reason why I haven't watched yet. Even when I was a preteen or a teen, when shows like that were out,
Yeah.
they never.
It wasn't, you weren't into it. No. Yeah.
No, it wasn't my thing.
Do you like, I mean, there's some, it's like, you're a comedian. It has some funny moments, but it looks good. Like it's amazing. Like it's the Outer Banks is like stunning. You know what I mean?
So a show on Netflix that I really enjoyed and I had to sit down and pay attention to, like my type of show is like a Ozark.
Love Ozark, and I interviewed a bunch of the cast and we chatted and it was amazing.
Yeah, like that's my type of show. But then on the complete opposite end of the spectrum, I like, is it called Never Have I Ever? I think it's Mindy Kaling's new
Yes,
show.
that is very good.
That's like a teeny bopper show.
Yeah.
But I thought that it was very much, and it was a little bit predictable for me, just because in certain scenarios it's like she either gets the guy she likes, or she gets the guy. We know 16 cans, but we know the formula to those types of things.
Did you watch the whole show? Like, did you watch all of them? Okay,
I watched.
I'm not gonna say what it stands for, but did you not gasp like the first episode when they call them UN?
Yes.
and they find out why they call him that. I was like, we're going, like, whoa. Like,
Yes, yes. But you know what? So I am a huge fan of Mindy Kaling. I've been a huge fan of her since she worked on The Office. I like her show. I like her writing. I like her performance. And so that what you're saying, that joke for them to lead us down, and we're like, yeah, it makes sense, the UN, and then it not stand for, for it to stand for what, and it to be so kind of crass, and it's so her humor.
Yeah.
It's right in line.
But I was kind of like, whoa. Like,
Yeah.
I didn't expect that at all. You mentioned The Office. That show has zero shelf life. Like that, people will continue to watch that forever.
I've watched The Office probably like 8 full times at this point.
I just interviewed Melora Hardin, who played Jen.
Really?
Yes, and she was saying, she's like, I'm gonna be like, people are gonna like talk to me about Jen, like Let's Ghoul forever. She's like, and I'm okay with that.
It's so funny. The first time I watched The Office, I did not dislike Jan too much, but now every time I watch it over and over, I'm like, oh, wow, she's terrible. And it's a moment where, and this will show you how much of a fan of The Office I am. It's when she shows up for her baby shower, and like Michael has just found Holly, and they just gave him his perfect match, right? We're like 6, 7 seasons in, and when she says, "I don't want you to date Holly." And in that moment, like the moment that hit me, like the second or third time I watched it, I was like, oh my God, I hate Jan.
I know. I didn't, like, her character is...
She does it so well.
She does. She's amazing. I have to tell you, though, I, like Pam, like, I don't know. Like, I'm not... I'm sorry. Like, I'm not a big, I like Jim. I don't know about Pam. I'm sorry.
Really? I've never heard that before. I kind of want to hear do we have time? Tell me.
We do. Absolutely. We have time. First of all, I'm going to tell you, because people say, because Michael doesn't like him. I don't like Toby. I find Toby's the worst. So I'm just going to say that.
That's hilarious. But you know what? I think Toby is so funny.
No, he's funny. No, I'm talking about the characters. They're great. I love them all. I'm talking about the characters.
Like how he deals with Michael's abuse is hilarious to me. Because think about it. Toby has never really done anything wrong.
Yeah, but getting back to the Pam thing. No, it's just like, no one talks about how season 1 and 2 like was the biggest lead off of all time with Jim.
What do you mean?
Like she let him on a little bit.
Oh, Pam, yes.
She did. A little bit.
So here's the reason why I don't ever dislike Pam. It's because she was so afraid. She everything she did out of everything she didn't do was because fear debilitated her. I think that when they say it, when Jim says it towards the end, like, somebody to sit so close to you and it take you so long, or I think Pam said it, to take you so long to get to that person, although they're 6 feet away from you. Like, I'm getting chills right now just saying.
I love them together. Jim and Pam, I love together. But like, I feel
she
like
was so scared. She was in that job because she was scared. She was with Roy because she was scared.
Prison, I told Melora this, like Prison Mike, not Michael Scott. Prison Mike is my favorite character on The Office.
That was one of Michael Scott's characters, right?
Yeah, that was.
Yeah.
Do you remember that clip? That was one of the funniest. That's like the best clip.
That was when the branches merged.
Yeah.
Right. And they found out that they had like an ex-con program in their office, and everybody thought he was cool, and so Michael, right?
Yeah, and they're doing like, and then he was basically saying like, what was the worst thing about prison? He's like, the worst thing about prison was the Dementors. They were everywhere. Like, he's bringing up like Harry Potter stuff. No, it's amazing. Okay, so you're a comedian. I'm going to tell you my dad jokes right now, and I really want to
Okay.
know, because I'm like a dad joke connoisseur. Like I have them on the fly. Like if you watch past
Okay.
episodes, I'm repeating them, but I don't care. You haven't heard them, so they're new to you, right? So I went to
Okay.
this restaurant on the moon, Zainab. Amazing restaurant, amazing food on the moon, but zero atmosphere. Did you hear about the kidnapping? It's okay. He woke up.
Okay.
You should trust stairs. They're always up to something.
Okay.
The shovel was a groundbreaking invention.
Okay.
What did the buffalo say to his son when he was leaving for school? Bye, son.
Okay.
I used to work at a shoe factory, but you know what? It was soul destroying, so I quit.
You really do have them in the chamber ready to go.
I know. That was, yeah. What? I made you laugh, and you're like one of the biggest comedians out there right now, so I'm like, I'm having a moment right now. That was cool. Were they pity laughs? Okay, one of those laughs you actually like chuckled, and it felt like a genuine chuckle. I hope.
It was kind of like a sympathy laugh.
No, you
But
laughed.
not
You
a
loved
sympathy
it.
for you.
You loved it.
It was kind of like, oh, I get it. I heard this joke on a podcast one time. This girl, she used to, there was a premise on a podcast. She used to always tell these bad jokes, these long bad jokes. And there was one that always stuck with me. You want to hear
I do.
it? This guy, he walks into a bar and the bar is empty and he's having, like a bad day. So he goes to the bar and he just needs a drink to relax. And he sits at the bar and the bartender comes over and he gives him peanuts and he says, hey, can I get you something to drink? And the guy is like, yeah, can I get a whiskey, on the rocks? And the bartender said, absolutely. He goes off and he starts to make the guy's drink. And the guy, as he's waiting there, he just hears somebody say, you're really handsome. And he looks around because nobody is in the bar with him besides the bartender. And then he's like, I must have heard something. And then right when he thought he must have heard something, he then hears the voice again say, you're probably really smart. And then he looks up like, who's saying that? And so the bartender looks at him like, hey man, is everything okay? And he's like, yeah, I heard something. And the bartender was like, oh no, there's just me and you here. I'm not saying anything. And then he's like, but I'll bring your drink over in a second. And the guy is like, okay. So he starts looking at the TV again and he hears that voice again. And the voice is like, wow, your hair is so shiny. And the guy stops like, who is that? And the bartender was like, what's going on? And he's like, I keep hearing this voice. It's saying that I look good and that I'm smart and my hair is shiny. And the bartender said, oh, it's the peanuts. They're complimentary.
Oh my. Oh my God. That might be one of the funny.
Yep. I heard that joke one time on a podcast. I can't even remember the name of the podcast or the girl who hosted it, her name, but I will never forget that joke.
That's like that's like probably one of the best jokes I've ever heard. Oh my God. Oh, that was good. I'll never tell dad jokes ever again because you just, Zainab, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so glad that you loved Upload and that everybody is loving it. If anybody is out there watching this that hasn't seen it, make sure you check it out. It's a wonderful show. All 10 episodes on Amazon Prime. And of course, please check out 100 Humans on Netflix.
I'm sorry. No, that was so the peanuts. They're complimentary. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date with everything?
On all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. It's at Zainab Johnson, Zainab Johnson. I always assume people know how to spell Johnson.
No, I'm not laughing at that. You know what I'm laughing at.
You're still laughing at their complimentary?
It's a fun. That's so good.
You know what it is? I laid down the foundation, but I take you on such a windy road. And I saw you trying to follow. Like, okay,
I got excited.
What's
yeah.
the trick? Yeah, and then it's like, oh, the very thing I gave you at the beginning is the But that's how I was when I was listening. I was on a ride.
Oh
And
man.
then when it was like,
I have a Zoom call. I have a Zoom call tomorrow, and like I'm wondering if I could like say that joke and not mess it up.
Tell it.
I'm gonna practice. I'm gonna replay this. I'm gonna practice. Well, seriously.
I was gonna say, and you can change the compliments. You can change the drink. You get what I'm saying? You just have to make sure you plant the peanuts so that you can say that they're
It's like
compliments.
comedy 101 here. You're like teaching me. Yeah. Like, but seriously, congratulations. People could obviously, they could watch, like you said, on Amazon Prime, they could watch Upload.
Yes.
And they can watch 100 Humans on Netflix.
Yes, they can.
Right now.
Yes.
Like they can go right now and watch it.
Like right at this moment.
Amazing. Well, this has been Popternative. YouTube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. And until next time, this is Zainab Johnson and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.